Well, good afternoon. It's been some time since my last video. I took a little reprieve after what was mostly the fig and persimmons season for 24. And now it is 2025 and it's January the 23rd and it is cold. My goodness, this is the coldest winter that I can remember for quite some time. And I've spoken on this issue many times in my videos about winter protection and dieback, everything that is associated with those subjects, several times. And I also mentioned that I had been getting away with some very, very warm, uncustomarily warm winters where I was getting away with not covering my figs and with very little negative consequences. Well, that's over. I have seen this pattern for many, many, many years, for decades. 2 years, 3 years, I get away with murder, and I'm able to grow figs and not cover them all, because it's impossible for me to cover all my figs. It's impossible for me to do it. And even after 2 or 3 years of smooth sailing, all of a sudden, boom, here comes that very, very, very cold winter. And many of my figs die back all the way to the ground. Even if they're covered. Many times, even if they're covered, they just can't withstand that very, very unusually cold winter. It's really cold. A couple of weeks ago, it was down to 12. And then it was down to 10 degrees. And recently, we've been in the single digits. And I saw down as far, out here in the country, I have seen down to 5 degrees. And very windy and cold. And one night after another. And that's what really kills the figs back too. It's not just that one little shot sometimes where you get down to 10 or 8. But when you get down to 6 or 7 or 5, 4, but you get that wind chill, and then there's consecutive days of cold. Well, it's been cold for a week. It's so cold. I mean, last night it was down to 8 degrees out here. And the night before it was colder, and it's just been so bitterly cold, and not even getting above freezing during the day. Yesterday I think it went up to 24 degrees. It's been very cold. And so I've taken the liberty to go out before this second cold shot, and I cut a few cuttings from my favorite fig varieties. Some of my favorite fig varieties, not all, but I got most of them. Some of them I have in the protection of the basement in my fig isolation room, so I don't need to worry about those. But the others that were here mostly in the ground, I've cut some cuttings so that I'll have these well preserved, even if they die all the way into the ground, which is kind of rare, but this year, I don't know. I mean, the ground is very solidly frozen. And I did take the time to put some winter mulch under every tree. Still, with this kind of consecutive cold days in a row, I'm very, very afraid that maybe some of them will actually die, just die outright, and the roots included. So just in case, I've gone out and cut a few branches so that I can guarantee that I'll preserve some of these of my favorite varieties. I won't go over them all. There's quite a few here, but let's just take a walk outside. I want to continue this conversation. If you have the time, please stick with me. I have a few observations outside that I'd like to talk about, and here we go. Here I have my cutting garden, which I featured several times in my videos last summer, and many of them were completely covered up. Unfortunately, the first cold spell, I was not here. I was away on vacation, and I was delayed. It's a long story. And so my baby cuttings, the ones that I actually started last summer, they were completely unprotected, unfortunately. And I quickly covered them up when I got back, which was before this cold spell. And so I'm hoping that maybe some of them will be spared. I'm not sure what the outcome will be. Let's just take a look here, because I still have some persimmons, believe it or not. These are Nikita's gift. And I've been eating them. They're almost at the complete end. Again, it's January the 23rd. And believe it or not, these are still quite edible. See that? I mean, they're delicious. Absolutely delicious. And I eat them just like this, and so does Debbie, and we put them in smoothies. Very sweet and very delicious. Which is one of the incredible benefits of growing several varieties. Now the birds are really starting to get to them. A week ago they weren't getting to them much, but it's so cold, and I've been feeding the birds a lot. It's so cold that now they're going after the persimmons. And the squirrels have come. I've got 4 squirrels now that are coming here regularly. I've been feeding them corn and all different types of bird food. I've been trying to keep up. It's almost impossible to keep up with it, because everything I put out, they eat immediately. When I go away from here, the birds will just swarm down on the site. And the squirrels have gotten to be brazen. They're not afraid of me anymore. And so they just kind of wait to get fed. They're not here right now. They might run off a little distance, 10 or 20 feet, and then as soon as I leave, they come right back in and start devouring all the food. Well, they're going after my persimmons, which is fine. They've lasted until almost the end of January. What can I really hope for other than that? I've really enjoyed them. And I managed to freeze quite a bit of them, and I gave a very large number of them away this year. So most of the crop wasn't wasted. And I never consider, when the animals eat the fruit that I grow, I never consider that a waste, because I enjoy contributing to nature in that fashion. I always have. I always will, I'm sure. So the question arises, how much damage am I going to experience this year? This is my, what I call my front side orchard. And I've got a large one behind the barn and other trees in the yard as well that I've featured before. So probably those of you that watch my videos are familiar with them. How much damage? Well, you know what? I think a lot. I think I'm really going to experience, after 3 easy years and basically no dieback, I think I'm going to be, experiencing quite a bit of dieback, and some of it may be all the way down to the ground. I wouldn't doubt it at all. I can tell just by looking at some of them that they're already permanently damaged. I can just examine, I just know from experience, I can just examine the buds and examine the upper branches, and I can see that they're not going to make it. A lot of these aren't going to make it. I hope that some of them do, because I so cherish my fig orchard. I value it immensely. I love my figs. I love my figs. But I have to be a realist. This is the year where my strategy isn't working. where my laziness and I guess lack of resolve to save every single fig branch I can is going to result in very negative consequences. And I have to accept that at my age. I have to accept that because it's just not any longer, it's just not practical any longer for me, as when I was younger, to cover all of my fig trees, or even a few of them anymore. And I have fig trees in different locations, as you know if you follow my videos. And so I'm not in any danger of losing any varieties permanently, and I'm going to have fresh figs in my 7B location. And many of the ones I have here are also there. So it's not like I'm going to be without any figs. And some of these, like this Celeste tree here, which is, I think, one of the most resilient to cold varieties that I've ever grown, it is, for sure. Some of these varieties, and because it's somewhat protected from the northwest winds, some of it may be okay. In fact, as I'm looking at this, I can tell that these miraculously are not permanently damaged yet. I can just tell by examining this branch that so far it's not permanently dead. Now that might change in another week or two. I might start to see signs that it actually is, but as of right now, I can tell by the little bit of color, and I can just tell. I can see the flexibility. I can just see that it's not quite yet damaged. But this is Celeste. This is a tough fig when it comes to winter hardiness. And so I almost expect some of this to survive. If not the entire tree, it's possible. It's possible. Not likely, because I just know how cold it's been. Other varieties that are more susceptible, like this champagne, I took cuttings off of this. I took none off that because I have this in different locations. Here, I did take quite a few, and I have another tree in the ground of champagne, LSU champagne, and I did take quite a few branches from this so that I can start it up. And I've taken the precaution of winter mulching this tree, along with all the others, really. And I'm pretty sure that new shoots will shoot up if this tree dies all the way back. So that's how it is with figs these days. That's how it goes. I'm confident that I will have some new shoots in the spring. Maybe some of this will survive. I can cut off the dead wood, and maybe I can preserve some of these lower branches, and then new shoots will vigorously grow from there. But I have some cuttings, and I'm going to start up some new trees anyways of my favorite varieties, because I just can't get enough of them. I can't get enough of the figs. I just love figs. Not that I don't grow enough to eat. I just like having them. Shh. I won't show Debbie this part of the video, but I've earmarked a couple new spots for new trees. So some of those cuttings might go into new locations. Here, what I did was I quickly covered up a new Ronde Bordeaux that I planted last year. I'm hoping that it will survive. This here, I have improved Celeste, and I just wanted to preserve it. It was small enough to get under this trash can. This is my water barrel in the summer, and here's a smaller water barrel. Pastiglieri, it was a small enough. I got it over that. I took a few cuttings. So I'm hoping that added protection might save these in their entirety, since they weren't that very big to begin with. And hopefully it will. We'll see. I see I neglected to get this covered up over here. Let's see. From a distance I saw that this didn't go down all the way. That was not good. So I'll cover it up. Better late than never, I guess. I don't know. Well, it is what it is. Here's my Ronde Bordeaux, my large Ronde Bordeaux. I took quite a few cuttings from my Ronde Bordeaux because I love this variety. And I have some very interesting plans which I talked about in earlier videos. And I will again in the spring. But for now, it suffices to say that I've done what I can do to ameliorate some of the damage from this excessive cold. And it has been consistently and excessively freezing. I mean, brutally cold. And we'll just pick up the pieces in the spring and go from there, and I'll keep you apprised. Thanks for visiting. I'm going to make my way back into the house now and grab some hot chocolate because I'm freezing. It's so cold. I'm sure when I post this, many of you will be quite familiar with the last week of weather and the ongoing weather, and even the next few days. It's just forecast to be very, very cold. I haven't seen anything like this for a while, and so naturally I'm concerned about my fig orchards. Here's another variety. Let me walk over this way. This is and I took some cuttings from this too. Sicilian Dark. I love this tree. It's just one of those Mount Etna variants, which does make a difference. And I just love this tree. It's a workhorse. It produces. I love the quality and the taste and the richness of the figs. I've taken quite a few branches off of this tree because I intend to have a little fig garden that I'm going to make for the specific task of just growing my favorite fig trees so that I never run out of my favorite varieties. And I've got some other plans too, which I intend to share with you in the spring. Thanks again. Good day. Frozen in its tracks.